Hi folks, hope you're all doing well out there. This is a video I've been planning to do about a good 2-3 months ago, but I was waiting to gather a bit of data first and some analytics. It does seem like maybe an opportune moment to do it now though, because there's been a lot of debate around WhatsApp versus Telegram, Signal and so on, and especially what's come to the fore was the issue around WhatsApp is not really about accessing the content of your messages. Nobody actually is accessing the content of either Signal, Telegram, or WhatsApp messages. It's around the metadata and what is seen by the hoster themselves about your behavior. In other words, what you're doing when you're on, when you're off, where you're connecting from, what device you're using, when you're awake, when you're asleep, who you're communicating with, that sort of thing. And there's quite a lot of information that is revealed through metadata, and I thought maybe, you know what, this video actually can help illustrate that as well. So it could be of interest to a couple to know a bit more about it. And I can also illustrate a few things that happen or some differences in the data and the analytics as well. So I think what you're going to see out of this really is that there is quite a wealth of information. And if you think about this information now getting on-sold to third-party analytics companies or marketing companies who are, remember, they are now accumulating this information with what they get from other sites as well. And they can start putting together quite a picture of really where a person's going, what they're searching for, and what's going on. I did decide about 3 months ago to rid my website of Google Analytics and StatCounter. That's what I was using. And what that really means is that I had the Google API key and gave it permission to my site to basically gather all the data I'm seeing at the moment, the same data basically, but it goes out to Google's site. And I view it, of course, in their cloud. Very convenient, very nice, and they provide maybe 2 or 3 extra bells and whistles. But the fact of the matter is they have got all that data, and that's what they mean, what is often meant by third-party cookies. It's cookies that, it's not my cookies that I'm collecting firsthand on my site. It's a third party's cookies that have got access to data, and that's often why you see people blocking third-party cookies. That would block automatically Google Analytics and various other things usually from working, although they've got a few other devious means of also extracting information, so that's not always the be-all, end-all. But that's really what it is about the third-party cookies. So by eradicating those two, I then was looking at, so what could I just put on my site to, for first-party cookies perspective, gather just what countries, I'm interested really more for my blog, what countries people are visiting from, what's of interest to what countries, what pages really are being visited, which are the popular pages that people are interested in, what times of the day are they visiting, days of the week, you know, when is there spikes in traffic, what's being looked at, that sort of thing. And certain of these applications that we use do allow anonymizing of IP addresses and GDPR compliance and all those sort of things. So those are things you can set up for yourself. Just to remember though, and what I'll show is, because I have got AWStats on the screen at the moment, is that people that are blocking third-party cookies or that are blocking all cookies or that have JavaScript off will obviously affect the stats. And you can see that over here. If you look, for example, just here alone, the not viewed traffic. So what I should also just say before I dive into AWStats, AWStats is completely passive. It doesn't extract or it's not looking at anything you're doing specifically. All it's doing is it's an application that looks at the log files that are sitting on the Linux server already. So this is what's gathered in the log files from metadata from visitors. The not viewed traffic is interesting. This is bots and robots and worms and other things that are just, you know, they go out really looking for pages across the internet to index them for search engines like Google, that sort of thing. So where you see on my site here 128,000 pages viewed or 160,000 hits, and a bandwidth, believe it or not, 2.3 gigabits of traffic. That's just for January this month, halfway through January, in fact. That is just robot traffic. So this stuff is real. Hey? It gathers a lot of data and it's busy. I must actually look possibly at restricting this, because I'm looking at how much traffic is flowing from just bot traffic and robot traffic. But AWStats does differentiate here, and what it's trying to identify here is unique visitors. In other words, these are what it's guessing are humans that have actually visited the site. So just remember that figure as well, 3,036 unique visitors, because we're going to look at it in comparison to Matomo Analytics, which I'm also running. There's the number of visits, pages viewed, hits, and obviously a lot less data over there. So AWStats, as I said, passive. It's just gathering the data from the log files. And if you go down now, you can start having a good look at some of the more interesting data it does show. Obviously, hits by day of the week, hours of the day, and what bandwidth, top countries that are visiting. What I should just say here is I have got just a little library plugin added which helps translate the IP address to country. So it's making its best guess. Obviously, if you come in on a VPN that's exiting in India, it's going to show as an Indian visit. Top 10 hosts that visited. Robots and spiders. Now you can actually see a bit of a breakdown on the robots and spiders. Duration of the visits, that's also of some interest usually. Type of file, what types of file were being visited. The top downloads. And then the page's URL, this is the one that I'd spend quite a bit of time looking at weekly, just to show where, so obviously /blog is my landing page. The root is the home page for the website, so you can see how many people come in there, how many are going straight to the blog site, obviously with just a link to my blog. And these are specific pages, like my open source page and certainly the others. They usually perform pretty well. And I can see again viewing stats, entry and exit time. Top operating systems. You'll see here as well, this is starting to get interesting. So often also people are blocking JavaScript and are starting to learn now to hide some of their metadata. So you'll see more and more the data starts dwindling, and also you won't be able to get some of the information anymore in the future. And that's why hiding your metadata can be quite important. It gives you just an idea of what people can see. So obviously by browser type, what browsers are being used. Notice something interesting over here, no Brave browser. And then where they're coming from, connecting from what sites. You'll see quite a good percentage of DuckDuckGo search engines being used. Obviously not as good as Google, but remember also what's going to be interesting is a lot of the guys that are using DuckDuckGo are using Brave browser and certain other things to block some of their analytics. So that's why I say you'll find that the people using standard Google search often are the ones maybe that are really leaking a lot of metadata. So, you've got to be careful when you look at these sort of comparisons. I don't always view these as 100% complete, should I say, in context there. And then links, of course, from where they came. It's useful also to see maybe who's pushing a lot of traffic to my site. That's actually an old address that I don't use anymore, so I'm not sure. That's probably a redirect or something. And then also you can look at key search phrases. Matomo will show this in more detail actually, or not sort of say more detail, but what it'll actually show is that it's often Google that's leaking a lot of this information, not the other search engines. It's just useful to know what people are actually looking for, because that's obviously of interest to them. And then if it's something that's relevant to me, I might then consider doing blogs about it or a video or whatever the case is. And then of course, those are just some of the error codes just to be aware of. Usually people are often also testing for bad pages. I might have bad links as well. You have to go look at the logs to be more sure about it. So that really is what AWStats is showing. As I said, it's probably the least invasive and the most friendly to use, because even if you are blocking most things, it is recording these basic stats anyway. Let's go across and have a look at Matomo. So Matomo now is an analytics site very much like Google Analytics or StatCounter. The big thing is that, well, you can get it in a cloud service from them as well and pay for it, but I'm hosting this on my own server, so none of this data leaves my server and no one else has got access to the data either. It's just first-party cookies, and it does require that the machine's got JavaScript enabled. So if people come to my web page or my blog and they're using, say, Brave browser, by default, JavaScript is off. My browser doesn't, or my blog doesn't use JavaScript for anything specific nowadays. I've taken out discuss comments and that sort of thing. So it's not necessarily it's going to prompt them to say, turn on your JavaScript. So a lot of the time, the stats you're seeing here, this is people's browsers that's got JavaScript on and they're leaking everything. So again, I can just say again, the people that have got JavaScript off by default and that are using Brave and some of the other browsers, you're not always going to see a lot of their stats here. So by way of example now, for January, remember I said 3,000 and a bit unique views on AWStats. What Matomo is managing to pick up, and this is now only people with JavaScript enabled, etc., is 820 unique visits. So it does make sense. I know a lot of the people that follow my blog and my posts generally are using Brave, and they are blocking a lot of their metadata. So I'm not surprised by that difference in reading, but it's quite telling to me that yes, you can see the differences already appearing. Obviously, you get a nice visitor map. Matomo's also got a plugin that you have to activate to translate the IP address into country. So obviously, I've activated that. But I'll just go through a couple of things. You can just get an idea of what you're seeing. It's got a lovely dashboard view, obviously. You can see here again, you can see again the top sites. You can flick through to the next pages. There's a couple of other little things you can do here. There's some settings you can adjust. You can change the visualization. You can export the data set into Excel or to XML format or whatever, and you can search. And that's usually the same for all of these here. Some of them have just got some other settings, like you can change rows and so on. These are all like widgets that you can place, and it's got numerous widgets. I'll scroll through a few of them, but these are just really the ones that I make use of. It's got a visits overview. The channel types are from what search engines and sources people are visiting. So if you expand the search engines, look what you're going to see here. Oh, I'll probably have to go down a bit lower to look at the Google stuff again, but this is again mostly the Google search terms that are being used. These are the people that are coming through to my site at the moment. What are they searching for? Social networks, very nicely you can also customize this in Matomo. So I've been able to add various other unique social networks that are not just the big ones. A little bit more Reddit traffic coming through. These are very short stats. I suppose I could actually open it up. Let's just open it to, let's just make it year. And this is about 2.5, 3 months of stats. But we have done the comparison of the visits, so the rest is not so. You see, this view is now changed to an annual view. It wasn't a monthly view. So depending on what you've set up here, this is going to change what you're seeing. But now you can see my overall most visited page, tips for operating the BMW motorbike, ham radio, free open source software. And I know those are the popular pages. The dashboard, I've got it defaulted to my Drupal website at the moment, but Matomo does gather, it's got agents that work specifically on various other sites, or you can embed it as well on your own website. So things like Hubzilla supports it, Piwigo Photographs, that also supports it, and Rocket Chat supports it. So I've got those enabled for my other sites as well. This will have a little bit more data now on the right. So you'll see under websites, referral websites, you can see the sites that are referring data to me. And if there's anything significant, okay, that's actually my Blogger page. So believe it or not, people are still actually using that and coming to my website. I mustn't switch it off, obviously. Social networks, there now you'll see there's a more complete list, right down to things like my own Hubzilla node, Friendica, Diaspora, PixelFed Social. You won't see this type of stats, for example, in Google, because Google doesn't imagine that there is anything else outside the standard types of social networks. So Matomo allows you to customize all of that. Search engines, this is what I meant. If you look at Google search engine, you'll see, there we go, a lot of keywords being leaked. In fact, you can page through them and see what search terms people are using, which is very interesting. DuckDuckGo, no keywords, sorry. So DuckDuckGo is anonymizing your searches. Bing, I think, funny enough, is also. Oh no, Bing does actually leak. Sorry, same Microsoft, you're leaking search terms there. I didn't even know whose search was alive still, but anyway, no search terms. And look here, there's a whole bunch of other interesting search engines. This is the environmentally friendly one, not leaking any search terms either. Quant is also privacy friendly. See, no search terms leaked. So just to give you an example of what just your search shows about you ready to a third-party site. There was just a summary again of the keywords. So we've got the visits here in real time, showing how the people arrived from a search engine, from Facebook, that's a mobile Facebook, what country, what browser they're using, operating system, what type of device and screen is it, and you can view the visitor profile as well. So this is the information I see about an individual. You can see what page they came to. If they'd gone to a second, third, or fourth page and that sort of thing, I would have actually seen action 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. Remember, I'm not actually seeing who it is. They're just being given a temporary ID at the moment, a profile ID. I am discarding cookies after the first visit. So every time it actually is seen as a unique visit, I know it fakes my stats a bit, but it's just for me. And it doesn't track people across different visits, whether they're actually returning or not. But it gives you the information about the devices. The person is from Cape Town, South Africa. And that's about as close as I go on the stats. I'm actually anonymizing the last 2 points or so of the IP address as well. So I'm not tracking like down to individual users. Anyway, most of these IP addresses are dynamic and they change. So for me, they're pretty meaningless. I'm just more interested in towns and country visits, really. So let's just have a look at a couple of the other things there. That is the dashboard view. The visitor side, you get more breakdown now here on the visitors specifically. We've already really seen the overview, but this is just another dashboard view for visitors specifically. You can look at the visits log. And here, for example, you'll see there were 2 actions. That's somebody that came in on my Home Assistant page. They clicked on a link and they went to the Getting Started configuration page that I was advertising. So they exited out to the Home Assistant site. That's what I could see there. This is about the Anytone ham radio, and same thing. Somebody read my page there and they went out to the site. Here, for example, is a post I did. That's a node. That's one of my blog posts about the GIMP tutorial. Somebody from the United States. And see what I meant there? I've anonymized the last 2 points of the IP address. So I'm just using it for country and location. But they basically came in over there on the GIMP tutorial blog entry, and they clicked through to go to a YouTube video that I'd linked to over there. This one actually shows a couple more. It's somebody from the UK. If there isn't a provider for the IP address, I see it is showing that, but it's not for me really relevant. They came in on my open source page, clicked a link over there, and it looks like they refreshed the page a second time over there. So yeah, that's just more detailed information if you want to go and have a look. Real time is obviously what's happening now. I'm not going to worry with that too much. Let's go to locations. Again, it's more of a detail of what you saw on the front page dashboard. You can get roll-ups by continent, region as well if it's available, city, and of course browser language. Useful to see the German-speaking people are generally coming in from my BMW page. I know that already. And then also by ISP providers, devices. The software and operating systems in use. So my site's obviously did a lot with free and open source software, so you'll usually find higher percentages of Linux users and Android users and so on. It also, now you see what I mean by metadata. It even manages to have a look at what sort of plugins are present on the person's browser. So have people got Silverlight activated, Java, Flash, Cookie, PDF, Reader, whatever the case is. Don't underestimate the metadata. It's just visits over time. The bot tracker, he has a bit more detailed information on the bots, and I must actually just go into this a little bit and see what's going on and whether I want this bot or not. Should I block the bot? But this is the type of information that would help me do that. Behavior, you can see which are the most visited pages, bounce rate for the page, how long people spent on the page itself, how many exited straight away from that page. You can also look at which pages they arrive at, landing pages. These are the pages that people arrive at my site on. and which are the pages they exit from. Page titles. This is now searching on my site. I have got a search function on the website in Drupal, and what is happening here is this is not Google search. This is the people that are actually on my website and performing a search on the site through my blogs and stuff. What are they looking for? I have no idea why people were looking for Musenberg. Maybe something happened or something, but garage door, that was probably to do with automation, home automation. 40 meters would be ham radio. ABS is ABS brakes for BMW and traction control. So it sort of agrees with what I've been seeing in terms of the stats. Search words where there was no result found. So now the question is, do I want to go and do blog entries or provide further information maybe about these things? So, you know, that's what I could, for example, make a blog entry about radios for sale in South Africa, then this person would have found a page. So that's how these stats help me. Outlinks. By link that I have got on my pages where people are clicking to go out to external links, like say YouTube, I would imagine that's these pages they're going to and it's rolled up. So for example, my broadband, people that visited my website, 21 of them clicked to go to the article on my broadband. News, gadgets, whatever. So that would have been mybroadband.co.za/news/gadgets, whatever. So it gives me an idea of where I'm providing traffic to other sites as well. I don't really have downloads. Not sure what this would have been. But if you did have downloads, okay, that's my RSS link. So obviously 4 people have accessed that page to get my RSS feed, the news feed. Yeah, I'm going to check engagement. Yeah, so returning visitors for me is not really going to be relevant. Oh, sorry, site search. I wanted to have a look at, this is transitions from internal to through. I'm not sure what this is. This is to do though with this particular site, with my BMW bike site. It's showing, I think, people coming from other parts of my site back to flowing through outwards. I think I've got a few of these set up. I'm not sure. Okay, I haven't really explored this area to be. I think the performance was the page load times, which is something I was looking at. Average network time spent, transfer of data, completion, server time, and load time. So this does give you an idea as well of your web pages that are very slow to load and slow to respond versus, you know, ones that are quick. And obviously, if you make any changes or fixes, you want to see here that these times are actually improving. So again, there's useful things you can analyze. The acquisition stats is where people are coming from, how you're acquiring your viewers and visitors. So there's the summary basically showing these are links that I've probably posted or other people have posted, direct entries straight into the site. People that have done a search through a search engine and arrived at the site. I don't really do campaigns and so on. Coming from other websites, coming from social networks, a distinct web search engines and distinct websites. So that's always useful to know where people are coming from. Yeah, so Facebook, I do get quite a lot of visits from Facebook, closing that page soon as well. But anyway, mine is not really for the visitor numbers. It's not really about that. Telegram. So these were links picked up in Telegram. I've got a Telegram channel as well that I run where I post my blog articles too. So if people are clicking on it there and coming through to the website, they're picking it up also as source from Telegram, from Twitter, Reddit, geocaching.com. I've got obviously a few geocaches I've posted there, so it's probably people picking up those links. Search engines and keywords. We've gone through some of this already, actually. I'm not really going to go through those again. Social networks. And there it gives you a summary again, as we saw earlier. Campaigns is something which you set targets for on particular pages. I think that was a campaign builder, and I thought I had them set up already. I just got 2 or 3 pages, but I don't know what happened here. I don't know where those pages have gone. Oh, goals. Sorry, it might be under goals. So I've got some goals set for particular pages, like my open source page, my BMW page, and I've got a big tech alternatives page. What this dashboard is showing here really is that if you clicked onto one of these, say the big tech alternatives, it's supposed to show you the stats of everybody that went to that page. In other words, somebody that had an interest around big tech alternatives. Now it'll give me some roll-ups and stats around those people with a particular interest. If I went back and I looked, say, at the BMW owners page, you'll probably find a lot of these visitors are going to be from Germany now. Or maybe not. That's interesting. Okay, I'm finding South Africa, United States, and Australia of all things. Okay, but that was the idea behind these goals that you could set for pages, and it would actually just give you some stats around that. The marketplace, these are the various plugins that you can just click to install and then configure and use within Matomo Analytics. So I'm going to go down this page because it could be of interest to some. I'm not going to get everything installed. You'll see some of them are payment. That can be a once-off, or they could be a subscription. And this is from Matomo themselves. That's obviously how they also make a bit of money. You can see that the ones that I've got installed are ones that I haven't installed yet. This one, for example, the bot tracker, having a look at bots and getting more detailed analytics like we saw a bit earlier. Obviously, I've got that installed, and if I wanted to, I could click to deactivate it there. Some of these, yes, you see you'll pay a subscription and you're going to get more detailed analytics. The advantage, though, still remember with Matomo is that this is all sitting on your own server or your own machine. So it's not that it's sitting, you're paying them, but you're using the service locally. Google Analytics importer, but sad I discovered this after I'd already deleted everything physically out of Google Analytics, because I could have imported that 2 or 3 years worth of stats as well, just to compare, you know. Counter, live tabs, signups, heat map and session recording. Some of these, like I say, you can get a lot more detailed analytics, not something that I'm actually after. This, obviously, you could, if you wanted to, you could grant access to other people to log into your website. I certainly don't do that. So I haven't got any need for these logins. Migration of data, user flow, popular paths your users take through your websites, marketing campaigns, roll-up reporting, media analytics, activity log. Some of them are just plain functionality like forcing SSL, security info about your PHP environment. So this is probably something I actually should install. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, let me just install that. It's obviously a newer one that I hadn't seen before. Activate. Hopefully it doesn't show all my vulnerabilities now. Oh, good, didn't show them. But it'll now be somewhere on the menu on the left now for you to make use of. Custom reports. There we go, it's installed. Visitor generator. Oh, lets you generate fake visits. Bandwidth reports, queued tracking. You can exclude certain countries. That's to block, I think, or to exclude their stats, sorry. Password verifier. So I think that gives a pretty good idea, but there's quite a lot of additional plugin functionality, and of course third parties that are developing these things as well. So Matomo is pretty powerful. I'll just quickly end off maybe by going through some of the settings. You can just get an idea of what there actually is in the settings. It obviously checks for updates and will update automatically for you. You've got a summary, a system summary there. You can do a full system check. These are premium features. just want to check. I don't want to go into too much over there on the security. Let's rather just look at the general settings. When to archive reports, email, branding settings, deletion of old visitor logs and reports. There's the summary of your plugins. So here, for example, search engines. This is where you manage what search engines it's going to use. It comes with a fairly comprehensive list of search engines, but if there's newer search engines or other ones that you're aware of, up here you can add an additional search engine with a name, a host name, parameters, and that sort of thing as well. And then likewise, this is a more interesting one because these are changing quite a lot. Matomo had already, as I said, quite a lot of social networks already included. You can see Last.fm, different LinkedIn sites or machines, Mastodon, all the different Mastodon nodes. So you can even start gathering stats per Mastodon node. And if there's a new one you're aware of, you can just add it here as well. So it's quite handy. And likewise with social networks, you will add over here, put in a name and then just the host name. That's it. Picks it up from the referring side. The geolocation settings. You've got a couple of settings you can set for that. There's the automatic update of geolocation databases, mobile messaging. You can set up, obviously, if you've for SMSing and mobile notifications to your mobile. Bot tracker configuration over here as well. So this is where you can also add unknowns if you find bot trackers that you want to add there. Here we go, is the anonymizing of the data. So you'll see I've set it there for 2 bytes, the last 2, and that's why I've got zeros on the end. I don't see the people's actual IP addresses. You can anonymize IP addresses. There's quite a bit of information there. Let's just go up. I allow users to opt or honor the opt-outs as well. So you can, if your browser has been set to automatically opt out of tracking, then my Matomo will honor that as well and won't include that as part of the tracking. Let's just see what else. Okay, I haven't got the consent box, I don't think, popping up. It's the one that says to you, please turn on your tracking for stats purposes, etc. Gets a bit irritating actually every time you visit a site though. So there's also GDPR overview and settings and other things here that you can switch on for complying. And I think the tools were for the cleanups and various things as well. Here's the widgets. So these are the widgets that you could place on your, or you can configure, should I say. I'll just show you just now where you can add those to the dashboard. Let's just have a look. You've got a system check, tracking failures, a couple of others I'm not going to go into here. Brute force log is stuff you want to have a look at every now and again just to see who's trying to brute force your site. I've got no currently blocked IP, so it is performing a fail to ban, but my server is also doing its own fail to ban, so it can also be that I might not be picking that up. On the dashboard here, these widgets you've got, you can actually move them around and rearrange them, but where you will find new ones to add, I've just got a couple on here at the moment. If you go click on dashboard at the top, these are all the widgets that you can add. So if you wanted more visitor information, you go there and you choose one of these over here. It gives you a preview as well. And if you clicked on it, you could just pop it onto your dashboard. So there's quite a lot. Very handy because if you find there's something that you're having to dive into the menus all the time to go and have a look, go down here, find it, and pop it in as a widget on the dashboard. And I think you've got that. So yeah, look, that's pretty well much it. I really just wanted to show people sort of what sort of metadata is being leaked out, should I say, whenever you visit any website. So what you've got to remember is that organizations such as Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and I think Twitter possibly as well, where they've got these single sign-ons, they've got the ability also to grab data and see who's visiting, because you're obviously coming from that site. They're authenticating you and they're sending you back to that site again. They know what sites you're visiting. So what happens is companies like Facebook especially want to aggregate a lot of that information. Now, if you visit 10 or 15 sites today, you spend time on this website and it's got a Facebook login, for example, as well, and you've searched for 2 or 3 things, that's the aggregate of information. All that information they put together, really. And a lot of these third-party cookies, by the way, I'll see are being phased out very soon, but they're going to be replaced with fingerprinting, which could be achieving a similar thing and supposedly more anonymous. But the idea is, and that's why browsers like Brave and I think 1 or 2 others are also scrambling the fingerprint reading as well to try and confuse that type of thing, that it stops somebody putting together a whole trail of what you as an individual have been doing across the internet over a period of days or weeks or months. And that's the value of the information to the marketing company. So as I said, the way I've done it really is I've got some basics I did want to see. I'm hosting the information myself with only first-party cookies, and I give people the option to opt out. As what we saw in the beginning as well is from the raw stats, you'll already see quite a lot of people have obfuscated themselves. Quite a lot of people have anonymize their information or using browsers that anonymize them. So I'm losing a fair percentage of that data already. People with JavaScript switched off by default, also I don't see that data. So there is a bigger and bigger proportion of people that are now disappearing, that you're not necessarily seeing their behavior and their information anymore. But hey, you know what? There's so many people still doing it that I've got more than enough useful information at the moment to still guide me for what I want to do on my blog and on my website. But yeah, I just hope that gave people some indication of what's gleanable really from the metadata. And yeah, keep safe and out there and keep social distancing, and let's hope this pandemic passes by, by the middle of the year or so. It's still going to be quite a while. So like I say, stay safe and I'll see you in the next video.